Good morning, and thank you for welcoming me in this meeting. My talk today will cover mostly the radiopharmacy that is not very well known by the conventional pharmacy industry companies. Actually, it relates to a very important portion of imaging, diagnostic imaging today. The PET imaging will not exist without the tracers that are produced by the radiopharmacy. Basically, we start from this. Actually, a few years ago, it appeared about 20 years ago, even in the 90s, but clinically it started in the early 2000s. And this is how they were working in the radiopharmacy at that time. Now things are moving, processes are appearing, but also demand for more flavors is coming. So we are moving toward that direction with a different paradigm. Translated into radiopharmacy, this is what it gives actually. We used to have FDG only labeled with fluorine-18. This is still the majority of the scan that are using the FDG, but also we are now moving to something more complete. First, it starts with a palette of isotopes that are all produced by cyclotron or even generator for the gallium-68. And using these isotopes, it's possible to produce more tracers than we have today. And this is what's coming in the future. This is what will come. The variety of tracers, more tracers could have appeared before. Most of the tracers here are not new, but for some reasons that I will explain later, it didn't happen that other tracers really took a large share or a large portion of the scans in routine. These tracers here can be used for oncology, but also in cardiology and neurology. I take the data from Sweden. It's the country where the cyclotrons are produced. This is not by chance that it's Sweden now. This is the trend for the last 15 years of the molecular imaging scans. By molecular imaging scans, we mean both SPECT on gamma cameras and PET scans on PET-CT scanners. The trend is not growing really terrifically. Actually, it's pretty flattish, slowly growing. But you see, since about 2001, basically for the last 15 years, almost 20 years now, the constant growth of PET scanners. And the PET scanner actually is eating some of the SPECT images. This is the detail of the FDG scans in the same country, and it's really growing. It's fastly growing, and the trend continues. It's growing. The growth actually is driven by the implementation of more scanners that allow more scan, obviously, and also more and more demand, especially in oncology, for PET scans. And this is really driven by high diagnostic value of this type of imaging. If you go in details with other isotopes used in PET scanner and PET imaging, we have mostly the carbon-11, which has been used by academics for a few decades now, but it didn't go beyond academics, and this is why the number of procedures is pretty stable. But what is interesting is the emergence of gallium-68 that started after the year 2010, and this came thanks to the availability of the gallium generator that was invented about 20 years ago actually, but it took some time to come into industry. And also the availability of tracers that can be labeled with gallium. Gallium is easy isotope to label tracers, and it was mostly used to label tracers for the neuroendocrine tumor imaging and for the prostate cancer imaging as well. And this really, the demand in this indication really drove the application of the gallium. Let's see now what's happening in the industry side. There are a few companies operating in radiopharmacy in Europe. Actually, there are a few big companies selling radioisotopes, selling kits to produce tracers, and there are quite a few tens actually of startups operating in developing new tracers. But we have seen for the last 2 years some changes, some movements, such as the expansion to new markets, the fusion between companies, or the acquisition to expand to a product portfolio. So there was big acceleration during the last 2 years, and we have also seen conventional pharma companies stepping into the radiopharmacy industry. This is new, and we'll see later another example in this case. Yeah, and actually, now we talk about TerraGnostic. We cannot talk about the future of tracers and radiopharmacy without bringing the TerraGnostic in the discussion. TerraGnostic actually is a patient management strategy that involves the integration of diagnostics and therapeutics. In oncology, TerraGnostic merged the field of tumor diagnostic and with the one of the therapy to try to improve compared to existing techniques. With its capability in disease identification, targeting, and treatment, TerraGnostic actually really opened a new era and a new chapters in what's called precision medicine. And the goal of in TerraGnostic, actually, we use the same targeting molecule that is labeled either with a diagnostic agent, such as the gallium-68, or with a therapeutic agent, such as lutetium-177, which is a beta emitter, and that will do metabolic therapy. And this is an emerging field that will really change the way people will work in the nuclear medicine in the future. This is an example, actually. AAA was the first company bringing a TerraGnostic agent on the market in Europe and in USA, and they have acquired by Novartis for the amount of $3.9 billion, which is a huge amount considering what they are doing, the size of the existing market, and they have done a great job, actually. I show you here an example of PSMA study showing the first scan with PSMA 617, the imaging before the cure and after 3 cures using a PSMA labeled with lutetium-177. The patient responded very well to this therapy. And this really will change the way we are doing nuclear medicine. Let's come back now to the way actually we do work in department, in the nuclear medicine department and in radiopharmacy. It starts with the production of isotopes. The isotopes are produced in a cyclotron, which is an accelerator. We usually produce F-18, oxygen-15, carbon-11, for example, for the most common ones. With this isotope, we will label a molecule to produce a radiotracer that will be metabolized by the biological process to examine on the patient. There will be, after injection and uptake of this tracer, there will be a scan using a PET CT scanner. And once the acquisition is terminated, the images are processed, analyzed, and interpreted to do a diagnostic. This can work only if there is a well-tuned chain from the production to the end of the imaging, because of the tracers that are injected to the patient are very short life and must be produced every day. The half-life, the shelf life of a tracer is usually a few hours, so they have to be used the same day. Everything has to be repeated every day. To do that, we have a complete portfolio of products, starting from the cyclotron, the synthesizer, and we also use a number of products from quality suppliers to have a complete offering, not only on the equipment, but also on the support, GMP, compliancy, regulation, and also for the quality plan and the service of the operation. This is how it works. It's complex. It's true, it's complex. It's reserved today to academics or to distributors who will do either a large variety of tracers or a large volume of tracers to be distributed to hospitals. And we see a way actually, and this works actually in quite a few sites today. We have more than 400 cyclotrons installed worldwide, and one in Greece at this moment, in operation in Lavrio. We see a way actually to change things, because today to operate a radiopharmacy, you need a number of skills that are quite rare, not easy to find, and you have to train them, and you have to keep them. We see a way to change things, to have an operation of radiopharmacy by the hospital skill, especially the nuclear medicine technicians that can operate the complete radiopharmacy thanks to simplification. We are bringing on the market a number of technologies that allow this. This is possible, and thanks to this, we want to reduce cost, both in terms of investment and in terms of operation. And this is made possible to new technology, for changing the way the department is working, by changing the requirement in clean air, for example, and reducing the cost of consumable. And also, the other aspect, the other barrier is the complexity of the process for the documentation, the process for the operation, and the process for the training and keeping the site at the state-of-the-art standard. We have solution for this. This is what we are call actually the Tracer Center VIP. Tracer Center VIP actually has 4 goals. First, have something minimal that can fit in less than 100 square meters with small cyclotron, integrated hot cell, integrated quality control, and everything connected with the computer system for the documentation and the production batch follow-up. This system can be operated by a nuclear medicine tech. It reduces the cost by 20%, both in terms of investment and operation. This is the solution that we are proposing. I mean, if you are interested, we can talk about it. But as a conclusion, actually, it's time to conclude. We see PET growing. For last 20 years, it had kept growing in every country, in every latitude. Today, it's driven mostly by oncology, but it's also emerging in cardiology, and it's not moving as fast as it could in neurology due to the lack of actually therapy. It's not worth. There's a problem in diagnosis, doing diagnosis of neurodegenerative disease if you cannot treat them after. PET is growing. The nuclear medicine industry actually is reshaping. There are fusions. There is interest for the conventional nuclear medicine, for the conventional, pharmacy, to step in the radiopharmacy, and we see that with AAA there will be other acquisitions. We are sure of that. TerraGnostic, this is the next revolution in nuclear medicine. We believe that more than half of the procedures in 15 years from now will be therapy, radioactive therapy, and the other half will be diagnostic. And finally, we see we see more need for more tracers almost everywhere, especially in places where they don't have access, where there is no access to tracers. We see solutions to improve accessibility, to enable the installation of PET scanners. And this is important, and this is why actually we are working on solutions to provide this access to PET imaging. Thank you, Efkaristo, for your attention.